Well. Good afternoon. I thought it was summer. Now it seems like spring or more like winter today. But at any rate, welcome to Let's Talk on Win TV. I'm your host, Denise Rolark Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer, here in sunny but chilly Washington, D.C. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming some amazing guests, including Nolan Williams Jr., and maybe even joining him will be Bishop Vashti McKenzie, who will be giving us a captivating conversation about their groundbreaking efforts to transform worship into civic education. And this afternoon, continuing our celebration of Women's History Month, we have Dr. Zina Jacque, a renowned motivational speaker and inspirational figure who will share her remarkable journey and empower us all to embrace our potential. As we head into Black Press Week next week, the Washington Informer reporters Maya Trujillo and Jada Ingleton will talk to Lady Publishers, Terry Sanders, publisher of the Omaha Star newspaper, Paris Brown, publisher of the Baltimore Times, and a title we've given her, publisher in waiting, Chelsea Dahl Carter of the Houston Forward Times, along with yours truly, in this segment to talk about women in the publishing business. You know, when we talk about women in publishing, rarely are Black women involved in that or included in that conversation. But because it's our show, we only going to be talking to Black women. So we're excited about that. And by the way, Black Press Week is approaching, and its 200 years of service will be celebrated with the establishment of Freedom's Journal, the first Black-owned newspaper published on March 16, 1827. Anyway, moving on, because that's why we're talking Black Press and having our publishers, but we'll talk a little bit more about Black Press Sunday, which you see on the screen in a few minutes. Washington Informer Managing Editor Misha Green will be speaking with DMV Links Chapter Presidents Rosalind Daniel Walker, Maryland Chapter, and Tamika Tunsell. And I hope I pronounced her name correctly, but she'll let us know. But Tamika Tunsell, Arlington, Virginia Chapter, about their upcoming Health and Wellness Fair. So those are just a few of the things that we will be talking about with our guests. But first, as you know, last week we shared the sad news of the passing of jazz legend Bobby Felder. Many of us have heard him at churches, Plymouth Congregational Church, so many places around the DMV. He is a household name for so many, and he did pass not too long ago. So the celebration of life will be held Friday, March 27th, at People's Congregational United Methodist Church, located at 4704 13th Street Northwest. The viewing will begin at 9 and the services will take place at 11. Our deepest condolences and sympathy go out to the family and especially the friends and the fans of Bobby Felder. You know, he will be missed. He's a legend here in Washington, D.C. So, as I mentioned, next week, or this Sunday, I should say, Black Press Sunday will take place at Metropolitan AME Church, located at 1518 M Street Northwest, where the pastor, Reverend William H. Lamar, serves as the pastor. And all are invited to join the service at this Sunday at 10 o'clock a.m. Again, the event will mark the 199th anniversary of the Black Press, marking the fact that the first Black newspaper, Freedom's Journal, as I mentioned before, was established on March 16, 1827, 199 years of the Black Press. So the program is to offer hope and inspiration to local journalists who have been impacted by the end of DEI and the significant job loss over the past year. And you know, this is a moment for Black journalists and people who value the work of Black journalists to come and show some support. So we're looking forward to seeing you this Sunday, again, March 15th at 10 o'clock at Metropolitan AME Church. So finally, I want to start the program without I don't want to start the program. You say I want to start, but I don't want to start the program without asking you to pick up a copy of the most recent issue of the Washington Informer. This week's issue features our health supplement sponsored by Care First. And if you didn't get the printed copy of one of our, let's say, 500 newsstands across the DMV, you can access the digital edition anytime, anywhere by visiting our website at washingtoninformer.com. Again, it includes our health section, some great content in there, in addition to the edition. And, I always like to celebrate our amazing, amazing, and as Misha likes to call them, fearless, and I call them faithful and dedicated reporters that try to bring you the news you can use here in the DMV and elsewhere. So pick up a copy of The Informer. And know that when you do visit our website, we ask you to continue or to consider becoming a subscriber. Access is free, and by becoming a subscriber, you will receive our publication directly in your inbox, along with daily news updates from our exclusive e-news service called Win Daily. Also, while tuning into the show today, we ask that you spread the word and share this broadcast on your social media platforms. You can follow us on Facebook, IG, X, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Washington Informer TV, where you can watch some of the latest or some of the past Let's Talk episodes and some of our more interesting programs outside of Let's Talk. We have a lot of videos there that we think will really, truly inspire you. And that's what we're here to do. So now we're going to turn to our show. Our guest today, starting with composer Nolan Williams Jr., Reverend Nolan Williams, but he said just call him Nolan. And we look forward to talking with him in just a few minutes. But before we do, I want you to take a look at this video. Yeah. Oh my goodness, Nolan, you never cease to amaze us with these beautiful and fantastic, I keep using the word today, inspiring productions that you pull together, the music you write, all of that. And Bishop McKenzie's with us. Wonderful. She made it. So glad to have you with us, Bishop Vashti McKenzie. Good to have both of you.
Good to be here. Thank you so much, Denise. Always great being with you. And of course, Bishop, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yes, absolutely. It is great being with both of you and Denise. We have known each other down through the years. And
yes.
And so it's good to be with you too, Nolan.
Yeah.
So, I want to just jump into this production that you all are working together on, just like Selma. Nolan, let's start with you. What was the impetus? Where did this idea come from, and what is it? Tell us what this is.
So, just like Selma is a new social justice hymn, and that's not something that you hear folk say a lot in these times. But it's a hymn that is drawing attention to the history 61 years ago when American patriots were brave enough to march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. They were defending voting rights. They were trying to secure full participation in our American democracy for all people, especially for Black people. And they were bold, they were courageous, they were nonviolent, and yet they were met with brutality. And we know that there were 3 marches across that bridge. The first 2 were not successful. The third one resulted in what we know as the March from Selma to Montgomery. And so the piece, the hymn, is reminding us of that history at a time when the very act that they were brave enough to fight for and to advocate for, the Voting Rights Act, is now under attack again. We have seen what the Supreme Court has done to that act in 2013. We have a sense of what they're about to do in 2026, 13 years later. And we have to remind folk why that Voting Rights Act is important, the sacrifices that were made to secure that Voting Rights Act, and why we still need to defend full participation in this democracy for all people.
I want to thank you for that. And Bishop McKenzie, I mean, we all know when we think about that Selma March that many of the folks that were leading that march were from the faith community, Dr. King and others. But today, how do you see the role of faith in today's voting rights movement, especially considering the historical significance of Selma?
Well, thank you for that. And, we're just as excited about Nolan and his work and where this video has gone. And faith has always played a role in our movement. The mothers of the church prayed while others were out on the front line. And the young people, the Sunday school students, took a major role when adults were afraid about their careers. So it is our faith that fuels our hope, that says, even though it looks like everything is against us, nothing is for us, between grief and injustices, we still believe that it's going to happen. It adds into our resilience. I remember that scripture that says, if God be for us, who can be against us?
Oh, Bishop.
And so we believe it's going to happen. We don't know when, where, or how, but our job is to keep at it until it's done. And so just the fact that there were 3 attempts on the march adds to our resilience, speaks to our resilience, speaks to our persistence. We're just going to keep on coming, and we're not going to give up. And if ever we needed to do that, we need to do that now, because newer generations don't have the same kind of, let's say, adherence, because they haven't always been exposed. And so even though they may not have sat in a history class to learn it, they're going to hear this song, they see this video, and they're going to be moved to action. That's the prayer.
Yeah, you said, Nolan, that it's a hymn, and we think about songs that came out of the civil rights movement. Of course, the one that we sing mostly all the time, which is "We Shall
Overcome."
But how are you moving this hymn around the country? And as Bishop McKenzie said, young people will hear it, all people will hear it. But how is that going to happen?
Well, we're doing that through wonderful collaborations like the one that we have with Bishop McKenzie and the National Council of Churches of Christ, with endorsements from denominations like the National Baptist Convention USA, the Progressive National Baptist Convention, the Disciples of Christ. I could keep going down the list. We're so grateful that so many of our faith leaders see the merit of this work and are joining us, are standing alongside us in advancing this work. We have also lifted up the Just Like Selma Hymn Sing project, which is now resident in 39 out of the 50 states. We're at about 99 American cities, so we're closing in on 100. But it's really powerful that churches have been singing this hymn, that organizations are lifting up this hymn, that educational institutions, we have 10 educational institutions, including 6 HBCUs that are lifting up this hymn, and a couple of high schools across the nation that are lifting up this hymn. And so we are really proud of the fact that this movement is growing with each day.
And I mean, I'm excited. I have, again, it's a wonderful, beautiful song, and it certainly does, sort of blend well with the vision and the what we saw about folks that just recently walked across that bridge. Again, we talked about 3 marches.
I was there.
Okay, all right. So
I was in Selma, and I marched across that Edmund Pettus Bridge alongside all of our civic leaders and folk from so many walks of society. And we're really honored that the video that you just shared, which people can go to justlikeselma.com right now to watch it and find out more, to register. But that video was a central part of the 61st Selma Bridge Crossing Jubilee. It was shared multiple times, and we're so grateful to Attorney Rose, Fire Rose Teray, and all those who lead that effort, Reverend Dr. Viola Bradford, for their recognizing the significance of this project and bringing it into their programming this year.
Bishop McKenzie, one of the things it's interesting because the lessons, the book, the Bible, for lack of another way to call it, it's all written out. We've done a lot of these things before, and now it looks like we're beginning to create teach-ins and opportunities for local churches
Mm.
to really learn about our history and how that is coming full circle. But talk about the teach-ins and how they're being, what's being held at local congregations, and how do they complement the hymn and the larger campaign?
Well, many of this is coming back to the church again.
Mm-hmm.
And as in days gone by, there was always a church in the school, because it was our students were not allowed into public schools or private schools, so we had to teach our own. And we still need to do that. And so incorporating Black history and things like Selma, remember Selma, are now coming back into play because there seems to be a move about to erase our history. But the Bible reminds us that there arose a Pharaoh who did not know Joseph. And we don't know what happened to Joseph's testimony, and how come Joseph's testimony was, not on the lips of this Pharaoh. So that could have meant that people stopped talking about it, stopped telling the stories across dinner, stopped sharing those stories at Sunday school and in church, stopped sharing their history. Other ethnic groups go to their particular schools after the school day so that they learn their history and their songs and all of that. It's all coming back into play, because if you know who you are, reflected in the eyes of God, you will not fall for what community and society and culture says you are. So, I know who I am. So you can call me any name you want and say anything you want, but I know who I am. And if you know who you are, then you will stand up and fight for who you are. You fight for your history, you fight for your song, you fight for your heritage. But it begins because you need to know who you are.
And is there evidence of the teach-ins, I guess, across denominations? Where are they happening? Can you give us some, especially in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, can you give us some examples of churches that have actually adopted the teach-ins?
Well, I have to refer to Nolan exactly on that. But we find that congregations who are, let's say, culturally aware and want to be stewards of their community and stewards of and notice I said stewards of their community and not just those who reside within the wall, you will find that they will pick up this or pieces of this. We have found that congregations have shown the video in their worship setting, especially during Black History Month. But I would say the congregation, don't let this just be a 28-day deal. This needs to be reminded. We need to be reminded of these lessons because our lives are at stake again.
Yeah, and let me add to that. There are a number of congregations that are not just showing the video, but they actually have taught the hymn to their choir and then by extension to their congregations. And what we're encouraging people to do is to use this as a tool for civic engagement, for inspiring deeper civic engagement. I remind persons that 6 decades ago, the church was at the fore of social movements, right? So, that's the reason why the music reflected church music. We Shall Overcome was Charles Albert Tinley's hymn, I'll Overcome Someday, just reworked. Woke Up This Morning with My Mind Stayed on Freedom was the spiritual, just reworked, right? They took music that was known and they reworked it for a civic and a social cause and purpose. And now here we are 6 decades later, and when we look at the social movements in our time, whether it's Black Lives Matter or Say Her Name, those did not start in the church.
Correct.
They started in the community. And then the church has been playing catch up. And so part of what we are saying is that it's time for the church to reclaim its place at the fore of these kinds of movements. And that's not to at all deny, the leadership of persons like Bishop Vashti McKenzie or Otis Moss III, or, they're leaders across this country people have been brave enough to speak out against what's happening in our time. But largely, those persons have been siloed, right? There hasn't been the kind of coming together. And one of the things that has inspired me is the reminder that music is still a galvanizing force. It's a way to bring us together so that we are unified in our messaging. We're literally singing out of the same hymn book. And so that's the power of this this piece. And then the movement becomes, now that you know this, use this as a tool to inspire people to get out to the polls. Use this as a tool to inspire your social ministries or your social justice ministries to be even more deliberate about the work that they're doing in the community. Use this as a tool so that we are inspiring people not to be bullied, not to sit back and wonder if their vote makes any difference or if their voice makes any difference. But if ever we need folk to be emboldened, that time is now.
Well, the one thing I know for sure in my oops, sorry about that. In my um, in my experiences in marches, that songs um, play a critical role in keeping people motivated and keeping them moving forward. And it's just amazing now that it's we don't march in silence. We don't start off in silence. We need those songs, and this sounds like an amazing piece that we I don't know. I'm sorry.
It's
That
okay.
yeah,
Freedom just keeps calling you, Denise.
I know. It's not the song I want to hear today. But anyway, no, I think it's just I want to commend both of you all for what you're doing, for sharing this, thinking of the greater good that this provides, and reminding us that we still have work to do. And I think
Yeah.
this what this does for us. I don't want to hold you too long. Any closing remarks that you want to share, or how can
I
people stay
do
engaged?
I do want to encourage folk to go to justlikeselma.com to learn more about this. And I also want to allow Bishop McKenzie to speak about some of the initiatives that she's doing through the National Council, because our goal here is to partner with organizations like hers in order to just provide another tool to amplify the work that's being done.
Ah, well, thank you. Thank you, Nolan and Denise. Thank you for sharing about all of this today. The National Council of Churches of Christ in the USA is comprised of 37 denominations, from mainline Protestant to historically African American, from Orthodox, Quakers, and the peacekeeping denominations. And we come together so that we can amplify the work of each other, but so that we can have a stronger voice as well as advocacy and, of course, activism. And so in this season, we have a campaign called Deliver Us from Evil.
Mm.
And this is a Lenten experience that we ask everyone to stop where you are at least once a day, particularly at 12 noon, and pray that prayer: Lord, deliver us from evil. This is a communal prayer that Jesus used, like my daily bread, and forgive us our sins as we forgive those who trespass against us, and deliver us from evil. Now, Jesus didn't pray, deliver me from evil. He prayed, deliver us from evil, so that our deliverance is communal. It happens in community. And so that's something that we do together, not just for me, but for my neighbor. So that helps me to pray for my neighbor, pray for the welfare of my neighbor, and then to stand with my neighbor when my neighbor is in trouble. And so if you go to our website, nationalcouncilofchurches.us, you spell it all out, nationalcouncilofchurches.us, and click on Deliver Us from Evil. There are tools that you can wear. There are tools that you can use. There's toolkits. We have signs. We have T-shirts that say Deliver Us from Evil. So whenever we're out in the field, you'll see us. And we want everyone to join us. Like I said, this is communal. It is Bible. It is scripture. It is the prayer of the hour. Lord, deliver us from evil.
I love it. I love it. I want to thank you all so much for being with us. Like you said, Nolan, before COVID or going into COVID, I feel as though the church's voice has become somewhat silenced. But I think this helps to amplify whether we're a member of bedside Baptist, watching online or whatever. Now we have a song and we have a day and an hour of prayer for each other. So what better way to share with our viewers today than to have the two of you all on to talk about these
Just like
wonderful,
Selma.
yeah,
Yeah,
just like Selma, and
yeah.
deliver us from evil. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Denise.
All righty. Have a good one. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Bishop.
So, yeah, I mean, okay, I'm going to the website. I'm going to get my t-shirt and I'm going to go to the website because I want to learn the words to this song. And I think we'll be doing some stories here in the Washington Informer on how, just like Selma, is being amplified in churches across the city. If you are a member of a church and you know that your church has taken time, your choir, to learn the song, it's been sung during your service on Sunday, or your choir's rehearsing it, give the song a shout out, give Nolan a shout out, as well as Bishop McKenzie, and let us know. We certainly do want to hear from you because this is not just a song. It's not just a Bible verse, but it's a movement. And speaking of movements, I am so excited now to bring on our next guest, Dr. Zina Jacque, who's Reverend Dr. Zina Jacque, who's a renowned motivational speaker and inspirational figure who has a remarkable journey. I hope that she'll share with us today and help us to feel even more empowered and to embrace our potential. Dr. Zina, welcome to Let's Talk. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself.
My apologies.
No,
Blessings, Denise.
thank you, thank you, thank you. So, welcome to the show. I mean, this is a perfect time. It's Women's History Month, and we women have been under attack, uh,
Yes.
especially Black women.
hmm
But you've come through, or you're still coming through, and opening up doors and helping us to come in and learn. Be more empowered. Talk about your journey, if you don't mind.
No, I don't. I have this story. My mom lost four children trying to have one,
Wow.
and the fifth attempt at pregnancy is me. And I have a sister, so there was another. But I think because I can't, when I was born and raised by this circle of amazing aunties and my dad, and they whispered in my ear, "You are here on purpose." I mean, they really believed that I was born under this gift of a purpose, and I'm confident that my mom and my aunts and my circle thought that about everybody, that everybody was here on purpose and for a purpose. And so, from a very small child, they filled me with the notion that there is something for you to do in the world. So I always walked in the world aware that I was necessary, that there was something for me to do to make the world a better place. And the second thing, the only other thing I want to say about that journey was, I don't know how my mother did this, but as a child, whenever we had made a mistake or blown something or misbehaved, there lived on top of the refrigerator an eraser, a
Mm.
blackboard eraser. And whatever you had done when the sin was accounted for and when the punishment was meted out and finished, you would stand in front of her and she would hand you the eraser. And here's what we were taught to do, my sister and I. You made an erasing motion and you said, "I erase that I stole money from my sister's piggy bank."
Uh-huh.
True story. But I remember I'm not supposed to steal. So everything that was a mistake or a failure, you erased the act, but you held on to the lesson.
Hmm.
And so my journey is one of purpose, and my journey is one of understanding that my failures may well be my best teachers. So they don't stop my road. They don't stop my forward movement.
Yeah.
There's so many more lessons, but those two it just made me who I am.
I love that. I love that. because we all are going to make mistakes, right? And
Yes.
I mean, that's part of living. But when that message was on the refrigerator, I mean, did you have to write it in? I should not steal, or I stole, and
You
then I.
had to say it. You
Okay.
stood before both of my parents and with the eraser in your hand and made the erasing motion. I erase whatever it was. I remember losing an election and I was heartbroken in high school, and I erased that I lost, but
Mm.
I remember, and then the lessons were what I had learned through that process.
Now, where did you grow up? Where were
I
you?
I grew up just outside of Chicago in East Chicago, Indiana, but I had these Mississippi parents,
Yeah.
Aberdeen and West Point, Mississippi, and the folk wisdom that they turned into significant life lessons, and not just as I said, there was a circle around me
Yeah.
of aunts and uncles and church and teachers, but my parents were so good at. My grandfather, when he tucked us in at the end of every night we spent with him, my mom's dad, every night you spent with Peter James, he asked you two questions: what'd you learn and who'd you help?
Mm.
The man died when I was 12. But before my 12th birthday, he instituted in me an ethic of curiosity, what'd you learn? And an ethic of service, who did you help? So you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but you have to be curious. You
Yeah.
don't have to be the one with all the answers, but you have to be willing to serve. Those were the lessons before I was, you know, of age that were poured into me. So
But
that's what made me.
do you still? I read something recently. Do you still ask yourself that question
Every
before?
night I have a pillow that
Uh-huh.
says it with my granddad's name on it. That pillow's on my bed.
And you ask yourself,
I do. I
okay,
do. Because if I have a day when I was not in service, don't beat yourself up, but what was that about? Because
yeah.
there's some days when it's about me. We have to refill our own cup, but you don't want many of those. And I don't want days when I'm not learning because that means I've been closed.
Hmm. So we're what, 13 days into Women's History Month, 28 days after Black History Month.
Mhm.
These are times that when we should be doing it year round, but we do focus on ourselves, or women like ourselves. Maybe it's not
Mhm.
ourselves. We probably should be focusing on ourselves. But what does this time, this month, mean to you
Mhm.
personally and professionally? Why is it important to
Yeah.
recognize women's contributions?
International Women's Day was created in 1911.
Mhm.
And the first Black sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha, was created in 1908. I happen to be a member of Delta Sigma Theta, 1913. And so you think about that the early 1900s, that
Mhm.
women were demanding recognition, they were demanding their place. And we have come on this spiral that again women are having to demand recognition and women are having to demand their place. So I think we derive lessons from our sisters, from our elders and our ancestors, and we deploy them in a new way now. History has to be learned so we can improve it the next time around because it's coming back. And so we are in this space where we are articulating our role and our power. And there's some unique ways women operate in the world. We have wombs, and the Greek word in the that our New Testament is written in, womb and compassion are the same word.
Mm.
So when we think about the way in which we must care for life growing in us, because we have wombs, that way of being in the world, that compassionate way, and there's a real definition to compassion that I love. Again, this is whenever you read the word compassion in the biblical text, it means being compelled to move, being compelled so that you can't help yourself. So we come to the way we live as women with this capacity to give life, with this, it's not an understanding, it's a knowing, it's beyond and beneath words of compassion. that shifts the way we are in relationship. And fundamentally, relationship, compassion, other is the way women walk in the world. And if you think about that, the power of inclusion is just an amazing way to structure. So there is no one outside. We bring inside the wisdom and the gifts and the presence and the being of all of God's sons and daughters. And that's everyone who draws breath.
You have something, or you founded something called Courageous Conversations. And I want to talk a little about that because, when we know, particularly the folks who are in schools, that there's something a little that's going awry with some of our young girls, right? And so I'm wondering if that's part of, the courageous conversations that you have, or how this compassion that you're talking about, how we grow into that, because I'm not sure what's happening. Everybody's like pulling their hair out. What's happening to our girls? What's happening to our girls? And I don't know how you would address that, but I do want to talk about courageous conversations.
So I'll make the link. Courageous. So from 2007 until 2021, I pastored in a community called Barrington, Illinois. Barrington, Illinois is a suburb of Chicago. It is 87% white. And I pastored the oldest church, Community Church of Barrington. I watched Black and brown people be invisible. There weren't many. And those who were there be invisible in that community. Two young white women, both raised in that community, Claire Nelson and Jess Green, approached me and said, "We want to start a movement. We want to start a movement that takes the blinders off and helps people see other and see and embrace other." So for 4.5 years, um, every second Wednesday of the month, we gathered people and pushed the envelope about who was left out economically, gender orientation, race, age, illness, ability. We were blessed to have the likes of Trevor Noah and Krista Tippett and Clint Smith and Isabel Wilkerson and others join us in this conversation. I've been able to interview all of those people I just named, Abby Wambach. It
Wow.
was fabulous. And if anybody's interested in seeing it, if you Google courageousconversations.us, courageousconversations.us, you can see all of the work we did over those 4.5 years. But the point was, the moment you other someone, you push them out of your screen, you lose the opportunity to learn, to grow wise, and to build strength. We understood that the moment you cease being curious, you are likely to be judgmental. You cannot be curious and judgmental at the same time. So if you're judgmental, you're not curious. If you're curious, you're not judgmental. So we were, like my grandfather, inviting that curiosity about how we could be our bests. Now, let me make the link to our young girls
Yes.
today,
Uh-huh.
particularly girls of color. The notion that I need to be like the biggest influencer in the world means that I'm not being like me. The moment my image, the moment my language, the moment my dress becomes led by someone else telling me who I should be, I lose myself. You just talked to Bishop Vashti McKenzie, who said, if you know yourself, what the world tells me doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Our girls are starting with what the world tells them instead of who they are. So I link back to that circle that raised me. They whispered who I was. And that's what we've got to tell our young people, girls and boys. This is who you are. You are literally, particularly Black young children, you are literally the descendants of the oldest human beings on earth. You are literally the descendants of those who created math and created language. You are literally the descendants of artists and philosophers. And you are descendants of the wisest human beings America's ever known, because only our wisest enslaved ancestors figured out how to survive.
Mm.
We
Yeah,
have to tell them who they are.
yeah, yeah,
And then I can take in other information, but my foundation is who I am, not who the world tells me I am. And that requires a courageous conversation.
yeah. Not only that, because I think, again, reading, listening, sharing, uh, like talking, all of that, I think is critical. And I don't. I think we rather sit back and judge than to engage and question.
Yes.
And that's how we learn. But you also have a meditation series, and it sort of fits with what Bishop McKenzie was talking about that noonday
Yeah.
hour when we just sort of take a moment. And but you are calling yours a sacred, or calling ours. I'm adopting it now.
Amen.
Called sacred pause. Talk about
Yes.
that briefly, if you don't mind.
I don't. And if people would go to beacons with an S .ai/Zina Jacque, you can get it all.
Okay.
Um, what I realized, so I have this gift in my life now. I have a 24-year-old niece who's finishing her master's program at the University of District of Columbia.
Oh, okay.
She graduates in 9 weeks. And so I have a 24-year-old living with me. Woo! And I've gotten to watch the world through my 69-year-old eyes and her 24-year-old eyes. And what I realize is that child wakes up with her phone in her hand and she goes to sleep with her phone in her hand. And it's like, where do you pause to collect you?
Right. Right.
So the sacred means set apart for the divine, and to pause is to gently slow. That's what it means. So you gently slow to be in touch with the divine. My hope is this, that each morning or whenever people would pause and take in some wisdom for their own souls. So whether I mention the Bible or not, it is grounded in that sacred text.
Hmm.
So it's not my wisdom. And the sacred pause is because we live in a world that prizes rushing and productivity and fast pace. But you know what, Denise? Wisdom rarely arrives when we're rushing.
Mm. Mm.
It's in those quiet moments. It's in those quiet moments that we can hear our own inner thoughts and the divine can enter in. So when we pause, we reconnect to what matters. So every morning, it's less than 2 minutes. There is this sacred pause that invites some wisdom and invites a response. And God has just been so gracious. In about 8 months, we've grown to 168,000 followers,
Wow.
averaging well over a million views a month.
Yeah.
And the algorithm surprised us because over 94% of our comments are positive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so people are finding, sometimes we step on toes gently, but we're calling people to their best selves.
I spoke to a group of uh, last Sunday and asked how many of you all recognize the time between 3:20 a.m. and 3:30 a.m., meaning some kind of way your internal clock wakes you up and you're just laying there thinking about whatever. And someone told me just yesterday, she said, that's God
Yeah. Do,
telling you it's time to worship or
do you
pray.
know where that comes from?
No, please tell me
It
because,
is so there are angels who have various watches, and that a little later than three, but right around that time is the last watch of the night.
oh, okay.
So it's as if you are being awakened at the last watch of the night to pray, to prepare your vessel to begin the day. And so if somebody finds themselves awake in those twilight hours before sunrise, it's not about an hour prayer. It's not about, a ritual. It's about, God, prepare me for the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Empty me of what is not for me. Fill me with what is, and order my steps. Something as simple as that.
Wow, Dr. Zina, thank you. I mean, now, I mean, for the last 7 days, it's been 4:27
Yeah,
a.m. I mean, the exact same time.
that's closer to the last watch.
Well, I appreciate that, and I really wanted, to have you on so that you could give some words of encouragement and inspiration to the women who, actually men and women, but
Yes.
especially the women that watch our program. Before we close out, any last minute, uh, you know, words that
Uh,
you want to share?
I want to share, you asked about our young women. I want to share just one word for our young women.
Sure.
So much of our world functions around what we do or how we do it. But I want to say to our young women and all of us, more than your what and more than your how is your why.
Mm,
Why are you on this earth? Why are you in the roles you're in? And again, at that website of mine, we put together a master class. It's 30 minutes,
mm,
30 minutes that helps you come up with your personal value proposition, your why. And I think when you grab hold of your why, it becomes your North Star, it becomes your guide. And I want particularly our young women not to get caught up in the what or the how, but to start with their foundation of why.
wow. All right, Dr. Zina Jacque, thank you so much. You filled my cup today. I appreciate
Mhm.
that. Hopefully, some others, and certainly hope to return that to you and bless you as well. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Be well.
All righty, thank you. You too. So, yeah, I don't know about you all, but I've gotten a lot out of both of those conversations. But that's what we promised you today, and I don't want to take any more time because Misha Green, our managing editor, is here with us to talk to and introduce us to two other ladies who are doing some amazing work in the DMV. So, Misha, I'm going to turn it over to you. Good day.
It's so great to see you. I have to say, uh, it's pretty hard to go after Dr. Zina Jacque after those words of wisdom. I was happy you had your transition because I was still taking notes about everything she said. That was so wonderful. And like you said, every single segment has been so incredibly uplifting. So I'm excited to chat with some people talking about wellness, which before you go, I do want to shout out again our health special edition talking about community care. And this next segment is all about it. And so I'm excited because I think it's, we have our 2 minutes where we focus on where we are mentally, but we also always got to check where we are physically, and that's something that we don't emphasize enough, except at the Washington Informer.
And they're both interconnected. They
Absolutely.
both kind of control the other. So yeah, this is a great conversation. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Yes. Well, I am so excited today to talk to presidents of two different links chapters here in the DMV area. We have Rosalind Daniel Walker as well as Tamika Tunsil. I am so excited to have you on the show today talking about Black Family Wellness Expo that uh, as we said before, is something that we are really focused on here at the Informer, and particularly this week as we had our health special edition. So, first of all, as we're talking about wellness, how are you all doing?
Doing great. even better following the first two guests on the show. I too was writing very feverishly and taking down the website, so I'll have to get that information from you all in case I missed anything. But great information.
And I feel the same way. This was very informative and so spiritual and inspiring. I'm ready. I'm ready for whatever this weekend brings us. So I'm very excited to talk about what the links are offering.
Well, I think fired up is certainly how I'm feeling as well. And look, we got the red lipstick memo, so look, we were ready to go and in an alignment. First of all, tell us a little bit about the links before we even get into the nitty gritty of the exciting weekends ahead of us.
Okay.
Yeah, tell us about the organization and what you all do.
All right, Roz, I'll take that one if that's okay. So the Links Incorporated, we are an international nonprofit organization committed to friendship and service. So yes, service to the community. That's what we're all about. But we're also about cultivating friendship as we do the service. We're here to talk about health and wellness. We focus on a lot of different areas: civic engagement, international awareness issues, national awareness and issues, working with our youth as well. But one of our key program areas and facets, and Rosalind can add a little bit more to this, is our health and human services, which focuses on reducing health disparities, promoting and preventative care, and improving the overall health and well-being of families in the community. So we're all about education, screening, and partnerships with our healthcare providers. And I don't know, Rosalind may want to add a little bit to that because she has a special position specific to HS. So I probably should have let her start with that one.
Rosalind, do you want to add to that?
Yes, I do. And I apologize. I'm having a little problem hearing you, but I can tell you that I do represent the Eastern area with the Health and Human Services facet. And we are committed to educating, empowering, advocacy, and also direct services for our members and our community. So we are focused on things that really chronically impact our communities, such as the hypertension prevalence that we have, heart disease and obesity. Environmental factors. We don't always think about that as being a health challenge, but the environmental factors are important. Food deserts, pollution, medical racism, unsafe housing, and poor health. All these things lead to poor health. So we're focused on advocacy in those areas. And of course, we also are focused on diabetes and food access to good quality food. And let's not forget mental health. Mental health is really important to us. So we are all focused on making sure that our community is empowered to have resources available and to understand and take away the discrimination that's often associated with mental health. This weekend, we will be sharing through health screenings, food insecurity. We have the American Heart Association who will be joining us. We also be working with STEM. We have women's wellness. And let's talk about voting. We think that the ability to be able to vote and to know more about what's going on in our civic world is important for our communities also. So we have community people there to support our voting education and voter registration. So kidneys, diabetes, you name it, we have at least for the DMV right now for tomorrow, which is the 14th at the Prince George's County Sports and Learning Center. We have over 40 vendors participating. It's free to all. Everyone is welcome to please come out, get screenings, get involved, do a little jump rope, meet other people, and learn more about quality health.
That was wonderful. And so, Rosalind, Tamika, I was telling someone earlier, I'm looking and I am seeing such amazing promotion with the links really nationwide in this Black Family Wellness Expo venture. I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the national and certainly DMV area-wide effort with the Black Family Wellness Expo. And then Rosalind already told us about this coming Saturday. So Tamika, maybe you can also share with us a little bit about next Saturday.
Absolutely.
And
I was
somebody might need to mute. If I think you might need a mute because it's giving us a little feedback. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So the Family Wellness Expo was created as a community-centered initiative by the Links Incorporated to address all the things that Rosalind just mentioned, right? So health disparities affecting the Black communities. But as we mentioned, it's an event open and free for all. All are welcome to come and get this great information and resources. It's a national initiative, so hosted across Links chapters all across the country. But we are pleased to share that the DMV chapters, as you mentioned, as an extension of our DMV Red Dress event that we hold in every February of each year, it focuses on heart health, but this year we also added more significant women's issues like maternal health and perimenopause and so forth. But we're extending that. We're capitalizing on that momentum and diligently planning and hosting wellness events throughout the month of March. So as Rosalind mentioned, the event that Prince George's is hosting on tomorrow, the Arlington, Virginia chapter will their DMV Wellness Expo on next Saturday, which is March 21st at the Charles Drew Community Center in Arlington, Virginia. And we will have many of the great resources and screenings coming up, but also we have free lunch for the first 100 registrants that register for our event. So just a plug, you can find us on Eventbrite, search Arlington, Virginia chapter of the Links Incorporated, and then you will find where to register for that event. So food, fun, and prizes.
Amazing. And, you know, you both shared so many wonderful initiatives that the Links are involved in. I don't know when you're sleeping as chapter presidents. I must know. Look, service and friendship is why you're in this. So I'm sure you do it happily. But you know, tell us why. You know, you have this annual Red Dress event. I have been to and really appreciate, and it's so important for the community. Now, the Black Family Wellness Expo. Why is that something that is critical to the Links Incorporated mission?
Okay.
Rosalind, did you want to take that? It sounded like it was unmuted for a second. Yeah. I think we might be having some technical difficulties.
I'm happy to continue to talk about the DMV chapters and the great work that we do in the community. This year was our 18th annual Red Dress event, which is still on the DMV Red Dress page. About 30,000 people have checked it out even before we put out our press release. I think now it's well beyond that, probably in the hundreds of thousands that are viewing that event. So it's still viewable. So please visit the page to view. But again, as I mentioned, we're extending and capitalizing on that momentum because we understand the resources and the information that is needed in our communities for all to have, but especially the unique health disparity issues that are in the Black community. So we extend beyond just heart health. February is heart health, but we focus on health all year long. Roz, I see that you are now able to jump on in. So anything you want to add there?
I just want to say that we are committed to empowering our families, and we want our families to reach out to us to get information of the resources that we're providing. So I encourage anyone who's listening to this to identify one of the Links chapters and beyond that will be recognizing the need and will be hosting the Black Family Wellness Expo. Our leader is our Dr. Lisa Lowry Lomas, who extends a great welcome to everyone to participate in our area. So please come out and join us.
Well, I am just so excited about all of your initiatives. Obviously, the Black Family Wellness Expo is one that we are keeping a pulse on. But please promise to come and tell us about everything that you're doing. Washington Informer wants to get the word out. As you said, we're highlighting women and all that is all the many disparities that Black women face, but truly for the entire community and for the entire family. And so thank you for that. We will be sure to, oh, yep, it's right underneath all your information for March 14th and March 21st. And again, thank you. Please come back, and we appreciate all that you do in the community.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Misha.
Thank you.
Thank you. We hope to see you. We hope to see you. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, this is just, I mean, I am so fired up from today. I guess that's been my word. Denise Furlark Barnes, our fearless publisher, also said earlier, which was a phrase I had used earlier this morning. So much of these conversations have filled my cup. It is overflowing, in fact. And I know that this next segment will do the same. I am excited to introduce Jada Ingleton and Maya Trujillo, who have an amazing segment coming up, highlighting Black women in the Black press.
Yeah,
I love that. I absolutely love that. And can I just say, Jada, I'm loving your curls. They are popping.
right?
The flow is so cute.
Yeah.
Talking about Black women power. You guys are giving us Black women power. So I'm so excited to see this next segment. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Misha. And
Thank you,
hello,
Misha.
let's talk.
Hi, happy Women's History Month, y'all.
Yes, and of course, as Misha said, I'm the content editor, Jada Ingleton.
And I am a contributing writer, Maya Trujillo.
And we have a very exciting segment, as Misha mentioned. It's not only Women's History Month, but the great thing about March is we also get to celebrate the Black press. Specifically, this year we'll be honoring 199th anniversary of the Black press. So March brings a lot of pride for us personally at the Washington Informer.
From passing the torch to the legacies carrying it forward, the women leading within the national newspaper Publisher Association represent nearly 200-year dedication as watchdogs of injustice.
And as the next generation of watchdogs of injustice, we thought it was only right to bring them on, and you can hear these courageous voices and stories yourself.
Yes, so please join us in welcoming the publisher of the Baltimore Times, Paris Brown, Chelsea Lenore Small, managing editor of the Forward Times, and the Informer's very own Denise Furlark Barnes.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hi, everybody. You all look beautiful today.
Now, this is Black woman joy and empowerment right here as well. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, I think we're doing. It looks like. I mean, I'm jealous. Chelsea looks like she's in a warm climate. Paris and I are Baltimore and DC. We're all wrapped up again.
Don't let it fool you. Don't let it fool you. Houston is very temperamental. Like I heard y'all are getting some temperamental weather. It's warm one day and then it was cold yesterday. It's gonna be warm today and then cold when we're at the rodeo tonight. So it's. I'm dressing, for the weather as it continues to change unexpectedly.
Well, yeah.
Keep a jacket in the car at that point.
Yes. I have a jacket in the car, like boots and then sandals. Like you just never know what the weather is going to give. So I gotta stay prepared.
Well, we'd love to hear it. I mean, we'll hopefully get a little bit of that warm vibe over here in DC. Like DRB said, it was warm for a couple of days and then right back to snow. But, the beautiful thing is we're keeping the momentum going with this very important conversation. And like I said, there's a lot of excitement with Black Press Week going on. So I just want to address the room with the first question. From the perspectives of, you guys are leaders in these publications, but in a lot of sense, you kind of either grew up with them or you knew about them before you were the leaders of them. So can you tell us a little bit about, that transition and what you wanted to bring to the table?
Well, I'm probably the senior and longest serving publisher on this panel, and but yet I can remember probably where Chelsea was of 10, 15, I don't know how many years ago, but growing up at the foot of her grandmother actually. And I didn't have that advantage. I was, with my dad, but Chelsea, is a third generation. And so, I always like to hear kind of what that experience was like. And just family conversations at the dinner table or when you all took vacations. I mean, what did you talk about anything else besides the newspaper?
So interesting, because I feel like even though I am a third generation publisher, it didn't click for me until I would say maybe a few years ago. I didn't really, in a sense, have a choice because, my summers and then graduating from college were spent kind of coming back to 4 times, but I was still finding my footing. And I think my grandmother, even though she devoted her life to 4 times, I think she was always so focused on me charting my own path. So I think that me being a musician first, right? Going to school for music and vocal performance, I was able to bring something else to it, just a different vantage point, because I was able to watch my grandmother and my mom. And though my mom shadowed her mother for over 30 years, she brought her own thing to it, right? And so with me, I was able to kind of live a bit. I had the opportunity. My mom didn't have that opportunity. She literally went and devoted her life to helping her mother within the business. I think I didn't understand the richness of the Black press until I was grown. Like I literally would wonder, like, what do they do all day? Like I know that they're publishing a paper, but I didn't know how important it was until my grandmother passed away. And there were news cameras in the front of the office following us around because she was this public figure who devoted her life to informing her community. And then from there, I was like, oh, wow, this is kind of a big deal. But it was literally me finding my own love for it and my own place and figuring out, okay, my grandfather started this publication in 1960 in his garage from an idea and a dream and a vision. I didn't have the opportunity to meet him. He died in 1971. I wasn't born until 1991. So by the time I got there, I didn't have the opportunity to ask him questions about what his vision was. So I had to create my own, in a sense, and let the legacy and the history of it inform my decisions, because you want to honor that, but you also want to bring something fresh and innovative to it. So I think our conversations around the dinner table weren't necessarily about 4 times in the news, but it was about a lot of the things that informed the coverage of our community, but just in a different way. So I had the opportunity, I guess, to live a bit and figure out, okay, what things can I impart into this huge institution of cultural richness and importance, but bring something fresh to it so that the next generations, my generation and the generations that come way after me, still understand just how important and integral it is to our existence, right? It's a loaded question, and I feel like y'all be here all day, but that's, I guess, the best way. I hope I answered it, but just kind of bringing my own thing to it, and because for a long time, to be honest with you, I was like, when it would get really hard, and I would feel like, okay, how do we pivot, or what does pivoting look like? I would be like, this is not my vision. I didn't ask for this, truthfully speaking, but I have such a love for it that I know that I'm supposed to be here with my mom. My mom and I are supposed to be doing this. And it's interesting because even though she's a second generation publisher and both of her parents, were at the helm of it at a point in time, if you ask her, she probably would feel like she didn't have a choice, you know? And I feel like I'm the first generation to have a choice and to actually choose it and to actually begin succession planning while we're both here to help each other.
Oh, that's amazing.
Somebody doesn't have to pass away for the baton to be passed, and we hold it together and we figure out, okay, what things can we take? You know, there's nothing new under the sun. What amazing things can we find in these rich archives from the 60s, and we take it and innovate it now in the 2020s and beyond. So that's kind of my vantage point, but I would love to hear from, you know, Paris and Denise.
Yeah.
Well, Paris sound. I mean, and I don't mean to take over y'all's interview.
That's okay.
But you know, Paris. It's from what you correct the story, but you know, Paris sort of found her way to the Baltimore Times, and the publisher was like, "Here, here." Here, take it. And she, I mean, from our vantage point, a lot of the publishers who watch Paris have watched her over the last couple of years and seen how she, you're talking about a rodeo, how she's sort of taken this thing, you know, at the helm and really turned it into something. So not that it wasn't before, but it's amazing how, you know, you didn't grow up in the business, but you certainly have assumed it as if it was yours. So
yes, and thank you for that. I think I came at a critical time. I carry forth that commitment to uplifting positive stories about our community, but I come from a business background, and I remember at the time when I came to the Baltimore Times, I believe it was what it needed. Joy was getting older and she was getting tired, and I came with all this energy and a marketing and sales background and a fresh approach to what I believe is news product and how we create diversified streams. And so at the time, my whole stance was I wanted to introduce new traditions around innovation, digital platforms, emerging technologies. And we were one of the first adopters of AI and creating an immersive media experience and telling the story of Black cyclists over the course of 100 years and bringing that to a new generation to consume in a very different way, and looking at how people consume information today and making sure that we're creating those distribution points because the industry is changing. And so I think that I brought a fresh perspective. I so enjoyed, Chelsea, hearing you talking about growing up. I didn't have that perspective. And so for me, everything was on the table for me to try. And I tried everything. But one of the things I do quickly is I pivot quickly. One of the strengths of the Black press is when you are small, you are agile. And so you have the ability to say, this doesn't work. You tried, you're like, this is failing. And you can stop failing quickly. And when I realized that, I had a revelatory moment. You know, I was devastated by, you know, it was interesting by support. And they're like, we can't support you. And I remember, you know, I cried all night and I woke up and I remember God saying, what do you have in your hand? I said, I have a staff. And at that point, I realized my smallness was my greatest strength. And so I leaned into that. And so when you are small, you can do so many incredible things and make a big impact. And so, yes, I came from a very different perspective, but I embraced the perspective that I came with. And I believe that it gave me an opportunity to reimagine the Baltimore Times.
I love that point, Paris, because Chelsea talked about this heavily in her response that I kind of raised to you and DRB. When we're talking about that why, you know, a lot of the times, like you were saying, Chelsea, for you were the first generation that had a choice, but your mom might have felt differently. So even with you guys stepping into your roles when it was time for you to become the publishers of the Baltimore Times and DRB, I know since 9 years old, you were with the Informers, which you tell us. But when you think about it now, beyond bloodlines, beyond the connections and the foundation that you've established, what is your why for why you keep doing it?
For me, it's about stewardship. it's about protecting the trusted place that we have in our community while expanding the possibilities for the next generation. So for us, our why is rooted in impact, ensuring that our stories continue to inform, empower, and connect people to opportunities to improve their lives. You know, at the Baltimore Times, we even our events must align with improving the quality of life for our people. And so it is so important that anything we do reflect those values, whether it's storytelling, whether it's an event. And it's important to control our narratives. One of the things we find at the Baltimore Times, we will cover stories no one will cover. There was one week we did 15 stories and not one media outlet covered it. And so we realized the importance of our role and the why it is necessary to control our narratives, because we control how people see Baltimore through our publication.
Good point. DRB?
I love that. I think Paris is so on point, and that's the history of the Black press. And you figure 199 years. And I go back to the early days when the first Black newspaper, Freedom's Journal, was published. And, you know, the country was, you know, about to go into the Civil War. And, you know, the North was trying to secede from the South. And people were trying to, you know, it was all, well, it claimed to have been all over the issue of slavery. But, you know, we know it was economics and whatever else. But, you know, you had all these folks talking about why, you know, should we, shouldn't we, what's going to happen with the slave, you know. And so, you know, you had two educated men. One was a college graduate, the other one a minister. And they said, wait a minute, you know, we have opinions. This is going to affect our lives. We even care about whether the North and the South succeed. How do we keep this union together? And so, but nobody was asking them their opinions. You know, nobody cared because they didn't feel as whatever they felt about us. So they created the first newspaper, you know, so that we could speak, you know, state our own cause, right? Our own message, talk about how we feel about this issue. And, you know, and when Paris talks about the narrative, we think that everybody was enslaved when we had hundreds of thousands of free Black people all across this country, many who could read and write, who were running their own little businesses and doing all kinds of things at the time. But nobody knew about them because nobody was writing about them. Right. So here we are today doing the same thing, you know, and that's why I like the fact that Nolan and created a song, you know, about Selma, right? To kind of connect history and tell our story. I don't know anybody else is going to tell the story about what they're contributing to the movement today, but us, right? So we have to, and Paris and I were just, I'll close out with this, but we're just in an event in New York when we were talking about artificial intelligence, you know, but that, what is it, LLM, it is, the models, you know, what people are saying. If we're not engaged, if we're not putting stuff into, you know, an artificial intelligence system, if we're not speaking to it, then at some point we will be erasing ourselves out of, you know, that medium. We have to be engaged and we have to tell our stories. And so, you know, it's even more important now than, well, the next generation is going to say it's more important than it was to us. Every generation is going to find a reason why it was more important. And the truth is, it is more important. So,
is it?
Yeah.
And sort of going off that, you know, it's like, as you were saying, DRB, it seems like it gets sort of harder and harder every day, especially in today's political climate. So how do you all sort of stay motivated as both leaders and individuals to really keep your audiences informed and inspired?
I think just kind of to piggyback off of the last question, Maya, I think with Forward Times, kind of our ethos is to inform, empower, and inspire, right? And that doesn't mean that all stories may necessarily be positive. Some of them, our community literally needs to know because it can save their life, right? There have been instances where we have, speaking, I can hear, Denise and Paris talk, and it's almost like if I close my eyes and don't hear y'all's voice, it's my voice, because I feel what you're saying, and I share in that sentiment, in the sense that if we don't tell our stories, then no one will. I mean, literally 4 times when I read, my grandfather's writings, what he said as to why he created it was to create a positive Negro newspaper, because there were none. There weren't any papers or publications or places to read about Black people's lives being documented positively. And so when I look at that, I look at the fact that we're the preservers and the recorders of history, and as the Black press, and I look at the fact that I'm a millennial, right? And I'm right in that crux of like physical media, digital media, both importance. But I look at how many people document their life and their life's works on social media or on Substack. And there's nothing wrong with that. But my point is, we don't own that. We don't own any of those platforms. So if those people who own those platforms decide to pull the plug one day, what happens to your life's work? What happens to your family's memories? Like, when you look at, I think a lot of publications, community publications, at a certain point kind of were like trying to scramble and figure out how to pivot. And we're like, okay, how do we show up, and how do we survive, and how do we thrive? And I think that a lot of people at a certain point kind of got away from, ourselves included, those community localized stories because of, I don't think it's that they didn't want to. I think because of resources. You got a lean team. You're just trying to do the best that you can with the information that you have, and you don't have the people on the beat in the streets. But my point is, that is our lifeline. Our most successful stories are those stories that no one else will touch. It's those stories where we're showing up to people's baby showers. We're showing up to people's 105th birthdays. We're showing up in spaces that other media do not deem important. And we're also showing up in spaces to break stories when Black women go missing. When there have been instances where 4 Times has published a story about, someone going missing or someone being wrongfully terminated. And in that instance, justice is served. And that's when mainstream media starts picking it up. They weren't talking about it before. And I know all of us have those stories. So when I look at the political climate now, to come back to Maya's question, and I think about the fact that we're literally facing historical erasure. I mean, we see it, book bans, curricular bans, all those things. There are people who are completely unaware of their history. And we have that. We own that. We own those archives. We own that information, to the point that when they create a film like Hidden Figures, they got to come to the Black press to get that information, because no one else was talking about that. So I also think about it like this, like we're in a time where, I mean, you could arguably say every time that we've lived in has been scary, right? Because the system wasn't built with us in mind. That's a whole nother. But my point is, we're in a time, to me, it's a beautiful opportunity for us to lean on each other. So right now, 4 Times has these exciting community partnerships in which we're working with smaller businesses, we're working with entrepreneurs, we're working with students, and we're saying, let us help amplify your story, let us help amplify your efforts, and then you're going to have the 4 Times distributed here. You're going to let your audience, your customers be aware of it. So we're getting that added visibility and foot traffic. And don't worry about them. If they're not going to do it, let's do it for ourselves. Let's do it within our community. And let's not, I think that we often are under the veil of justice. We've been living under a veil of justice for a very long time. And it simply was not true. And I think it's now in our face, and we're facing it, and we're realizing, dang, we really do need the Black press. We ran a story this week on a group of fashion folks. Like, there are people who are designers and they do these fashion shows. They did their 6th fashion show this year, and it's being aired on Apple TV. They literally told us, came to our office to purchase several papers and said, no other outlet cares. No one else talks about us because they don't care. And so Apple TV recognizes this in this space, but when it comes to any other news outlets, they simply don't care. So when we look at our duty, our job, our responsibility, and quite frankly, our opportunity, like Paris said, it is so advantageous to be agile. It's so advantageous to be small, because I don't look at Forward Times as just a news publication. Like, we're a hub. We got real estate. We you know what I mean? People can convene here to do all types of community outreach, just all those things. So I think that when we look at ourselves outside of just one thing, and we recognize what we've meant, when you look at history, but you also look at the opportunities, when we look at where we are in the crux of this political climate, I mean, we're everything. That's the best thing. Like Doechii said, I'm everything. Like, we're everything.
Every moment, absolutely. Well, I mean, inspirational words all around. Paris, I want to start with you with this closing thought. In your closing thoughts, any words of advice, anything that you want to see for the next generation of women leaders?
Yeah, I think that, and I appreciate what Chelsea said, because there is both a responsibility and opportunity. And I think that the role of the Black press is both historic and forward looking. And so when we look at the Black press right now, I think I'm excited about the new environment in terms of creating digital transformation and new storytelling tools. At the Baltimore Times, for us, community engagement, partnership, and now more important, collaboration is what we're using as our way forward, or our path to sustainability. So I think the future of the Black press lies in combining both our trusted legacy with innovative platforms that reach and engage our community, but more importantly, in creating and building our own multimedia ecosystems. And so we partner with technology companies to own our platforms, to own our distribution. And I think that that's important, because it is about not only that, also diversifying your revenue, but we have to find ways to amplify our stories, our voices, but also deepen the connection to our audiences, both locally and beyond.
And DRB will direct the question to you, and then I'm gonna let Maya close because I have to run myself. But thank you all so much for letting me sit with this interview. I'll probably be following up with both of you, actually. So if you see me in your emails, don't mind. But DRB, your response.
Well, I just want to say that, I thought it was really intentional to have the two of you interviewing us. Although Chelsea's kind of in the middle there, but that's definitely having the two of you all, because you all are the future. And one of the things that, we're always afraid of is that, with all the digital transformation, that young folks don't read newspapers. They don't care about news. If it is about news, they only care about entertainment and sports. And so we're finding that it's completely different. And I'm really excited to see the students from, at least from my alma mater, Howard University, HU.
No.
Thank you, Maya. Because even as a student, when I was a student, I wasn't encouraged to go work for a Black newspaper, and my family owned one, right? And you all seem to have that mission, and you understand the trials and tribulations, but you also understand the mission. And our mission continues to be the same. As I'm going back, it was 199 years ago. And as Paris says, it will be the same as we go forward. It's just how we develop those lines of communications, and how much of it, ensuring the fact that we own, what we produce, so that we don't, try to take our stuff and do whatever with it. So, I'm excited. I'm thrilled. I love to see this new generation of publishers, as we call Chelsea, I used to call myself publishers in waiting, or she is a publisher, but, and people coming into the Black press, understanding the mission, and, willing to do the work. So I'm very encouraged and inspired.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you all so much for this very, very insightful conversation. We really appreciate it. A lot of things to really take from this, especially as we were saying, being the next generation of women in the Black press. It really does a lot to hear from the people who are currently leading us. So, really appreciate it. To close out, the great thing about being a Black woman is that you get 3 months all to yourself. We had Black History Month. It's currently Women's History Month, and April just so happens to be International Black Women's History Month. So, celebrating the undeniable impact of Black women all over the globe doesn't end today, this month, or ever, honestly. And not to mention, we kind of never stop the celebration here at the Washington Informer. We have a lot of different segments from previous conversations with very inspiring women about topics from health to generational wealth to social justice. So, make sure you all tune in to Let's Talk and Win TV and just the Washington Informer and the Black press as a whole, so you don't miss out. Thank you to all of our guests who joined us today and to all the viewers watching at home. And don't forget to tune in next week for another great conversation. Until then, I'm Maya Trujillo. Jada's there in spirit. But yeah, thank you so much.
all right.
Thank you for having us.
So much. Thank you for having us.
Good
I
job.
can't wait to come see y'all in Baltimore, and I'll be in DC on Tuesday for Black Press Week.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, absolutely.
See
Got a
y'all.
standing invitation.
Perfect. I can't wait.
All right, Chelsea. See you, Paris.
See you.
See you later.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. So I think this brings us to the end of another edition of Let's Talk. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for your comments. We appreciate the support. And yes, I will be gone for the next couple of weeks, but of course, our amazing team will be pitching in with some more exciting conversations. So make sure you share with your friends and relations everywhere. You know how to follow us on social media, pick up copies of the Washington Informer. And until I see you next time, have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you.